is so muddy with acoustics. I might just ask this row and the next row to come up a little bit. I said I wouldn't ask you to move, but I'm just aware when I sit up the back that it's just muddy, that's all. I can't think of a better word than muddy. You start to see who's Sheldon Cooper. Do you know that show? Big Bang. So I sound like I watch TV all the time. I binge watch Big Bang Theory on long haul flights. Big Bang, yeah. So Sheldon Cooper is this vaguely spectral disordered genius who has a spa on his sofa. And if you're in his spa, I can't do American accents very well either. That spot. He has his spot. And it's his spot. And I'm just checking out to see who's got their spot. Can't find your mat, let alone your spot. Wow. Is that green blanket? Yeah. You start to keep a track of your towel, and it's funny how you get to know people's things. In our training, there's 120 of us in Melbourne one, so there's a lot of people, and so we tended to form little factions just to survive. So there was the Adelaide faction, and it's not like we hung around in class, you know, we didn't sort of all have our mats together. But years later, probably 10 years later, we had advanced training or something, and one of my colleagues from that time came and she was looking for her towel, and I said, it's over there, because I recognized her towel from, we knew each other so well. So you actually kind of start to get to know not only your own mat, but everybody else's mat and towel, and becomes part of their clothing. So how's your weekend? Yeah. Sightseeing? Quite quiet. Sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Oh dear. Okay. Sorry to hear. Yeah. And we can absolve you from the cake rule if you need to have it turned on. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you've been doing very well. From what perspective? Either very well via the cake rule that no phones have been going off. From my perspective, quite poorly because we haven't had cake. It's one of those mistakes I quite like you making, but I'm actually trying not to. You know, so it's good that you're not doing that. But for things like that, you know, okay. We're so used to things going off, it's not that big a deal. Any other comments about the weekend other than that you're quiet? Sylvia, box is coming.
I was with my family sightseeing, and it was the first week we were very in this close place, and there we went to the Great Ocean Drive, and seeing so many spaces and distance and movement of the sea and the still of the mountains, and it was like it was all new for me, but I use these exercises with it to see far away, and then see my my nose, and it was very interesting and very like live the experience in HD.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Yeah. It's bringing the eyes into the foreground, as it were, of attention is really an interesting exercise. I don't have to stay there. I'm just ringing a tiny bit. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, that'll do. That's good. Thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, we're not the only method to sort of concentrate on eyes. Obviously, there are methods that are only eye focused, you know, Bates and a few other names I can't remember. However, what's nice about the way we work with eyes is in the context of movement, you know, in the context of how we orient the whole of ourselves. So it's not just sort of eyes, you know, you feel like spy. It's in the context of looking, you know, with our whole selves, as it were. Anything else? One.
Oh, okay. I have a niece who's like 17-year-old. So I took her as my guinea pig for the Feldenkrais study, you know. So she was reading her book. So I said, can I sit beside you, please? And after she had problem with her work, I said, how about we do a little exercise to feel if there could be a relief of tension on your back, and the feel of what your foot can do for you instead of like crossing your leg when you sit. And if you want your hip to get smaller, maybe you could try and do something else. So we were playing with that, and I made her experience pelvic clock from 12 to 6 and to neutral.
It's a secret in this room at the moment, but that's okay.
And then we experimented with the eye that you were teaching us, and to look neutral, head neutral, but eye look up or down, and reverse it so that the eye will move. I'm not reverse, but move along with the eye and down and to the side. Then she jumped and said, oh, I did this in the psychology class last year with the ruler. Then I said, you try on the left eye, then you try on the right eye. Then I said, what's that with the ruler? And then she said, oh, you know, I'm going to drop the ruler, but you have to stay at this point on my computer screen. Then I did. And so Shimi got excited over this thing, and she dropped the ruler, and I touched the ruler, and it was like 9 centimeters. Then the other hand was 13 centimeters. Then she said, oh, I did it wrong. I told you the ruler is dropping. So I should not speak. Now ruler is going to drop anytime. So try again. And my left hand was bad because I'm a right-handed. And she said, oh, maybe that's the hypothesis I should add in my homework. And then next is she tried it on my left hand. And before the ruler could drop, I already closed my aperture on the second round. So I said, wow, left-handed, right-handed does not make any difference now.
Yeah.
Then she and me talked about the brain and the visual cortex. That's the one that take part in the sensory on the vision. And then she said, oh, you know, nervous system comes in. Oh, you know, central nervous system come in. That is your brain and your spine. Then I said, oh, let's work on the spine. So when we walk, I say, let's move your head and your spine together in one piece. And let's look down or look up and compare how much tilt we have on our head. And that might affect the base of our spine when we walk. Do you feel any difference? So we were experimenting with those things.
Great. Creative science. Lockie had his arm up. Done? Okay. All right. So this week, we're continuing on with basically the ATMs from Amherst, and weaving in other things that we've found useful over the years at this time. If you felt quite cooked at the end of last week. I think that's a reasonable thing, to feel quite cooked. Who felt a bit cooked? Yep. And obviously we reflect a lot on what we're doing, and there's in the first week we want to give you everything. You know, we want to answer every question, and we want to not leave you feeling ambiguous about anything. And, you know, there's a lot of kind of, so you had, when we look over our notes, you had a lot of stuff last week. We just touched on, you know, dragonfly, touching the water, zooming off again. So there's no wonder that you feel cooked. You know, and in contrast, we also said we'll talk a lot more about that later in the program, which can also feel really frustrating because there's this tension that we just want to do a brain dump with you and download all the files so that you know this beautiful work straight away. So there's always this tension, you know, too much, too little, frustration, not frustration. The three of us got together yesterday and we were really pleased with the way the week went, you know, whatever that means. So how do we know that? Seeing as we're trying to, what's the experience of feeling pleased? We felt satisfied in that what we wanted to go over, we imparted, and we seemed to get the sense that the room was able to absorb. The other thing, you know, whether this is projection or reality, what we were observing seemed to be a really nice, seamless interaction between people in the room. So you look like a group. If someone walked in and they saw you interacting, what they would see is a group of individuals, but still a group. So I'm really, you know, I want to thank you for that, because that's not something that we can do. We can't kind of force you to get on with each other. And be willing to share right from the start. So that's a really marvelous thing that was happening last week, which is that's up to you. So that's terrific. We've mapped out a lot more about our intentions for the segments in between the face-to-face. So last Friday we sort of ended on this, you know, kind of introduction that this training, we're introducing something more formally than has been done before, which is this idea of how can we develop some really clear landmarks for your emerging competence in this, and how your confidence and competence in this work, in yourself and in this work. The other innovation, let's say, in this training is that we're trying to respond to feedback from the community, as it were, at large, that 4 years is too long for people to really kind of commit to for a training program. So the traditional 4 years, 8 weeks, face-to-face every year, we've been nibbling away at the edges of for quite a while in the sort of more recent trainings in Australia. But as most of you know, well, Anna's not here, this was news to Anna Friday night, Anna Gaffney, one of the Annas, one of the extraordinary collection of Annas, I should say, not, it doesn't need to be Annas, one of the amazing Annas. Where's the other Anna? She's there. Look at me, no. Is that we are, when we've been going through the content, the curriculum, working out what could we do to make best use of the new technology. So when Feldenkrais taught this in Amherst in 1980-81, it was his last training, you know, they still had VHS tapes, and the technology was woeful, which is why the audio, you know, for these first 3 weeks, there's only audio. They didn't even get the video working. You know, there wasn't email, there wasn't internet, there wasn't anything. So we have to keep our pedagogical, our teaching methods, the thinking behind the teaching, the technology that we use for the teaching needs to change. You know, Feldenkrais would have been, he was an early adopter, but he was not an early adopter, he was a pre-early adopter. So he would have been into all sorts of things, I'm sure. So we are trying, sounds a bit effortful, doesn't it? Our aim, our intention is to bring the way these trainings are conducted into some kind of modernity and use some of these facilities. So we've been looking around at how other sort of disciplines do their training. You know, the competency stuff comes out of that. That's the kind of language that, you know, learning bureaucracies use as well. So that that document, which we'll talk about a lot more later, but perhaps not now, but the language in that will help us interface with bureaucracies. Like if we wanted to go for accreditation more from a, not just from a Feldenkrais point of view, but down the track from the vet point of view or something like that. So we need to start being able to language things in a way that can interface with other systems, even though it might not be our language. And that's actually Feldenkrais, is how can we language this work? So if, you know, Sylvia's a dancer, how can I language this work in dancer speak? You know, Loretta's an OT, how can I language this in OT speak? And then you learn other languages, but to be accessible for this method, we need to be able to present it in different ways. That could be in the language of competences, which is, again, as I said, interfacing with that more official institutional learning. And then with this technology side of things, how can we interface with that? How can we transfer our learning into different media? So we've looked at other disciplines, as I said, and expanded on stuff that we've been experimenting with anyway, which is the online kind of forum. And that might not be your natural place for happiness and contentment, the online forum, bless you. However, we're going, you know, it's kind of an experiment that we'll see. So we've picked some hopefully pretty good content to help you in the segment, what we're going to call so here's the face-to-face segment, and then the 3 months roughly in between the face-to-face we'll call the online segments, just to differentiate. And there will be, I'm jumping around a bit. I said to Zoran, you know why I'm jumping around a lot, even more than usual? Because when I teach at uni, obviously, I have PowerPoint. And that orders my thinking. I have this external structure to organize my thinking when I come in here, and I just go loopy, loopy, loopy. Anyway, so we're going to use that technology to help your learning in the online segments. So the months in between the face-to-face. And we're shifting the focus so that you don't see it as homework or an extension. It's part of the training. And in that way, we sort of get the hours, if you like, under your belt so that we can finish this training in just over, it's only, you know, a couple of weeks over 3 years. So that's the intention, and that's sort of been communicated. So it does put it back on you guys to not be you know, there's been a tendency in the past for trainings to see the in-between segment as sort of an optional. But this isn't optional. It's part of, if we can bring this group cohesion that's developing in here, and we can maintain it in online forum, is what I'm saying. Something like that, yeah. So Jenny will go through the online structure that she's had for a long time, knowledge base as part of Feldworks, and we will have learning groups. And we were thinking, oh, this is just, you know, we're happy for feedback and what you would like to think. But the kind of structure that we want to trial is that there'll be essentially, we'll pick kind of 3 online times, if you like, so that they suit you. And we'll generate those times from you. So, you know, a couple of them might be evenings, and one might be on a weekend, whatever kind of suits. And then you enroll in that time, and you meet in that time. One of the meetings, so once a month there'll be a meeting with staff, one of us 3. Once a month there'll be small groups where you meet together without us, where you're generating discussions amongst yourself. And then what we're going to trial, and I've, you know, unashamedly pinched this from one of my colleagues is doing, it's not exactly, she did it's not exactly positive psychology, but it's something like that from somewhere, some institution in Sydney. And they had to pick a study buddy, which we've always had here, but, well, I think they're called a co-coach or something. Anyway, doesn't know what the term is. They have to meet virtually every week for an hour. So we've pinched that idea, and you'll pick a study buddy, or we'll assign it, whatever you like, and you will meet virtually once a fortnight instead of once a week. Now, if you happen to be in the same city and you want to meet face to face, that's fine. But can you see we've got these 3 layers of relationships that you'll be using to help integrate this work in that online forum? So with a partner, with a small group, and then with a small group with one of the staff, whatever the topic is that we're exploring and discussing. And we'll see how it goes. So Jenny, some of this has come from Jeff Haller's experience. So he's the American partner in the educational team, who you haven't met. And he's been using Zoom a lot. It's one of the software things, which is really good for groups. Yeah. I don't know what the icon is for Zoom, actually. We use it at uni as well. I'm not sure what the icon is, but it's more robust than Skype, and you can have more people, and you get this nice little, you get the pictures of the participants up, and whoever's talking, it lights up automatically. It's quite cool, and you can record on it. So this is sort of a pragmatic discussion, and what I'm asking you to think about is, that if we ask the group to sort of nominate your top kind of times for those group meetings, whether it's, you sign up for an evening one, it could be the options could be a Monday evening and a Thursday evening and a Saturday afternoon, whatever, we'll fit in with you, and then you sign up for whichever suits you best. And then the get together with your study partner, you can schedule whenever you like. But that's the kind of structure we're thinking of, and then we will feed in the material that's for investigation. So some of it will be around those foundation disciplines that's mentioned in the competence document, and what we're trying to do is work out what do we want to deliver here, where we can observe the impact of it. What can we deliver for you, with you, where we don't need to have that interaction, that immediate feedback about learning. And so some of the foundation stuff, we can do that. So it might be some of the more didactic stuff, like, the biomechanics, which can be as dry as hell. And that's one of my background disciplines. And it will be reinforcing of what you've learned in the room, but it might just, might be sort of learning the language of anatomy. You're just quietly doing at home. Some of you will know it, some of you won't. And then, other foundational disciplines from the psychologies or from learning theory or from anthropology or whatever it is, they often will be, some of the more theoretical stuff we can deliver there, having given you the experience of the theory in here. Because we don't want Feldenkrais to become an academic exercise. There's enough academic exercises around. We want to stay true to this idea that we're learning through an embodied experience, whatever we're learning. Even if you're learning maths, there's a sort of element of embodied experience. Is that enough of a rant? Does it make any sense? Are you up for it? So tell me, who gets a slight tightening it's somewhere in their thing about internet? Yeah, I mean, I do. Oh. Yeah. I can't get rid of my DVD player and a screen, and my son just says, "Mum, chuck it out." And I go, "No, it's good, it works." He just goes, "Chuck it out, Mum, it's so old. This is DVD, it's only..." Yeah. So that, this is how it is, isn't it? When we're entering any new environment, there will be something. It'll either be an elation, yes, I feel at home in this environment, or I really don't like this, or I feel indifferent to it. And I hate to say it, but this is part of the process. How do we find some comfort in an environment that we're not familiar with, that it's not our choice as such. it's not my choice either. I mean, we have to teach a lot online at uni, and I can't stand it. I'm such a show pony, and I really, I need the energy of the group. And I got in my feedback last year something about, because I was ranting on because only about 30% of the students were coming to lectures because they can listen to a podcast. And I was raving on about how disappointing it is. And at one stage I said, there's a bunch of shits that haven't even bothered to turn up, which is not something that you can have on a podcast sitting on the web forever. So I had to scurry off like a naughty little girl and get the course coordinator to find the podcast, pull it off the net and edit this. Susan calling these people a bunch of shits. Anyway, not very professional. So I hear you. However, it's, it's something that it's the way the world is going. And our point here is, can you learn in all of those media? Yeah, and you can, and it's a way of finding, yeah. Do you want the box? Where's the box? Oh, you don't need the box, okay. Yeah. 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 That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and we're really open to feedback about this process because, like I said, the other programs have been using it. However, we're upping the ante a bit so that learning is really part of being, really part of being here. Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. Like a wiki, sort of. Is it another kind of a wiki?
No, it's just a closed discussion group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. There will be kind of sharing areas where you can dump stuff in for the whole group, and there'll be, and so those are kind of text only kind of areas where you leave messages and you come and see it later. But we'll also be having live interactive discussion processes, which we can do with the Zoom stuff. And as I said on day one, our job is to support and facilitate your learning process. So if you are having those tight tummy moments or confused or forgot your password or all of those things.
As if, Jenny.
It does happen, strangely. I will take you through a demonstration of the website and what's there and instructions on how to log in and register and all that kind of stuff in the fullness of time.
Okay, one more suggestion
before we go.
Richard. So say it again, it's called Last Pass.
You can save all your passwords.
Ah.
And then you can launch it from within, so you don't have to remember it, you just launch it. And it'll create an original password for you of long characters. There's a free version.
Okay.
But if you get the paid version, it'll sync with your phone and any other devices. It's
They've seen my little book that I should burn. Okay.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, these sorts of little tips can go on that shared site for people
it's actually very, very good.
Yeah, yeah. Can you throw to Richard in the middle of the room? Bounced in.
Nice bounce.
Yeah.
One is a suggestion idea, I don't know.
Yep.
If we're using an online thing, then all that associated learning that you're talking about, like anatomy or psychology or whatever, there must be lots of really good videos and podcasts online.
Yeah.
And I find that's a really easy way to learn.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we will be using existing resources, particularly for the foundational stuff, that competency that I talked about, particularly with anatomy, because why would we go and create a new primal program when there's something on there? As much as we can, we'll try and find programs that are either free or really cheap. And if you have to pay for them, that would be the kind of thing that you want access to for the rest of your life, kind of anyway. You know, it's a bit like, so it's equivalent of buying a textbook. That it's not something that you're just going to read once and then I've got it and put it away. Yeah, I'm singing a bit, but something that you just want to dip back into, and they are great. You're absolutely right. And likewise, you know, when we've got this shared space, if you see, you know, a podcast that's really germane to it, you know, that's, you know, we can look at those sorts of things to put up. We don't want to overwhelm you with, because one of the beautiful things about learning how to learn is you start wanting to do it all the time, you know, as if you cannot learn all the time. It's a bit like Sylvia was saying, you know, when our eyes can really take in a very big world, the world can get very big very quickly and you start wanting to devour all sorts of things. So you kind of want to pace yourself, but otherwise you'll just spend all day listening to TED Talks and fritzing your brain with all these fantastic ideas. So a lot of the activities that we're doing is still about integrating this work into real life so that you don't bombard yourself just with ideas, but there's part of this process in the 3 months between segments is that not only do you learn stuff on this floor, you learn stuff on your floor at home and on the floor at work and in the desk at work and, you know, the couch at your dentist, and, you know, so that this stuff doesn't just become an abstract thing that, you know, you walk around all day with your eyes like this and then you come onto the floor and you're like this. You know what I mean? So, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There's one more admin type of question.
Yeah.
Just with the scheduling for
Yeah.
this segment.
Yeah.
What's happening with Australia Day?
Oh, yeah. Someone asked Zoran that last week and I went, not my problem, because I'm not here. So Australia Day is next Thursday, Jen. Here. So it's on. It's on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do they have to bring lamb? You bring your stomach ready for the lamb. Vegemite sandwiches? Lamington suits me better. Oh, you had Lamingtons last Monday. That's right. There's one more hand I saw. Was it Anna? No. I imagined it. Okay. All right. So I hadn't planned on giving you all that pragmatic stuff, but that's just bubbled out because we had such a lovely day yesterday, getting very excited about all these marvellous things that you can do. Like for some people, actually learning on your own in the quiet of your own room might be really delightful. Darren hinted that might be his preferred mode of learning. So there's something for everybody in this program. There was two hands, Gloria and Lucky. No. The question was, has it been worked out where the next segments are going to be? There'll be a conversation about it. But as you can probably see by the makeup, Jenny's still waiting for people who are thinking to join. And as you know, it's always been a numbers game, and we're waiting. Not yet. Jenny might have more to say about that.
There will be a program here in Melbourne every segment. The option will be whether we add additional opportunities for those segments in other cities. And yeah, we're not at that critical mass yet, and I remain hopeful.
Yeah, so the intention is very much to try as much as possible. But for example, in Adelaide, there's 2, maybe 3 people. That's not going to happen. It doesn't mean to say that, you know, that I can't get together with the 3 there sometimes. A winter one in Brisbane.
Winter's a great time to be in Brisbane. Actually, thanks, Gloria. In wintertime, there is actually going to be a conference in Brisbane, which, as far as I'm aware, will be open to all practitioners and students. So if you want an extra little holiday in the warmth,
oh yeah,
we might talk more about that later too. Yes, I have, not on the top of my head, but it's around the middle of July, I think.
I binned it because I'm away.
Mm.
That's it. It's dead to me.
We'll let you know.
Okay. Can you throw to Lockie and then we might start the. Yeah.
I had a request which I'd like to explore, which was
Yep.
a lot of us seem to be full after lunch. Is it possible we can move some of the more information-based learning to after lunch
Yes, we could. Yeah.
rather than get
Yeah.
straight into ATMs?
Yeah. I realised I did that several times last week, and it's cruel. There's a small part of me that does laugh inside when I do it. And I say, roll onto your tummy, and I go, oh, they've all got little food babies, and they have to lie on them.
Yeah.
I know.
Because
Yes.
like this type of information would be great to explore.
Yeah,
after
that's right.
lunch.
That's right. And unfortunately, the way my brain works is to not just to do the opposite. So I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I'll do my best.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Lie on your back.